There you are. In this first video, I just want to discuss the topic of creativity. Instead of doing a bunch of guitar techniques or showing off gear I have or video, whatever, I kind of wanted to talk about something that's been happening with me lately, which is I took a few months away from sitting down and writing because I had to do other things. Specifically, I just got back from Vancouver doing the Pwn to Own contest, which is hosted by Trend Micro Zero Day Initiative, which is a hacking contest. It's part of my normal work. Just pull that up over my head. Hopefully you can see the bug. It's a fun time, but it takes a lot of time, and it means that I'm not writing or recording. I'm not even carrying a guitar with me because airports are scary places for instruments. But now that I'm kind of slowly settling back and getting a little bit more into my normal schedule, I'm kind of sitting down and going back through this process that happens every time I'm getting serious about being creative. So without too much more babble, I'm just going to start off with point number one. If you say you don't have time to do something, you'll never have the time to do it. You've already convinced yourself it's not going to happen. What I've learned over quite a few years, we're not going to say how many, that it's much easier if you just say, I'm going to learn this thing. How much time am I going to put towards it? Maybe it's a half hour every other day. Maybe it's an hour every Friday. Whatever it is, set the schedule and keep to it. You need that box to check. Most of us are not great at forcing ourselves into doing things. Cases in point like exercising, learning an instrument, learning to paint, just learning any new skill. You have to sit down and kind of grind through it a little bit. And if you're not forcing yourself to check that box every week, it becomes really easy to kind of put it off. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. And so it's always the most major point, and it's very hard to get yourself into it. It sounds easy to understand, but to actually get yourself to a point where you say, every day I'm going to do this thing for at least a half hour, or every other day for an hour. There's also a reason I say at least a half hour. Some things maybe you could say 10 minutes a day or 15 minutes a day, but when you're learning something that's fairly technical, you're going to need a little bit of time to warm up, to get comfortable with yourself and what you're doing before you actually start to learn. To me, it's very similar to sitting down and playing a video game. I love video games. I play them very well. I can pick most things up, but in truth, I'm not going to sit down and play a video game if I can't spend at least a half hour doing it, because I'm not going to get anything done. Nothing worthwhile anyways. Number two, when you have an idea, you need to write it down or record it. It may be a melody that you're just humming, you think you have, or a lyric, a line that comes to mind. Once again, it could be you driving by something and going, wow, that looks neat, and taking a picture. The major point is you need to get the idea down while you've got it. And it's not always convenient, right? As a musician, I'm going to keep kind of going back to the reference of guitar, but because guitar is one of the first instruments that I really bonded with. If I don't have a guitar around me, what am I going to do? I need to hum it out into a voice memo. I need to do something to remind myself what that thing was, because who knows when I will get back to actually sit down and play it on the guitar and try to record it. Most of us have phones. Most of us have tablets. If not, you can get the little micro recorders for fairly cheap these days at like a Staples. But if you're going to be creative, you need a way to write down your ideas. Not writing those things down or recording them typically leads to you having that moment at the end of the day going, oh, what was that thing that I thought was so good earlier? Take the time to review. So going back to the idea of the schedule, for me, I do hour blocks. So every day for an hour, I'm going to be creative, whether it's writing, video, music, whatever the case is. Maybe I'm just learning something new. On the days where I'm not super enthusiastic, or I feel like I picked up my guitar or I started playing drums, but it didn't really go anywhere. Those are the days that you should stop, go back, and just take the time to review the things that you've been writing or the things you've been recording or taking pictures of. Um, Maybe this is a day to be learning how to mix better or master better, or, but the whole point is on the days where you're not super creative, maybe you should be doing more of the work side of things. Go back and review. You may go through your voice memos, hear that one little humming or riff and go, "Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. That's really good." And that may be the thing that tips off your newest recording session or your newest video idea. The point is, if you don't review it, then it wasn't really even worth writing or recording it. So you always need to find the time to go back and check those things, especially when you feel like you're in a rut. You're not getting anything else accomplished. Now's the time to do that work. It might just bring that creative, ignition that you need. Always remember, it's fun, but it's work. Particularly with people in bands, you can always tell the younger guys to a band who are just like, and I don't mean younger by age, I mean by experience, who join a band who've never been in a band before. You'll suddenly see short-haired people grow long hair, grow beards, suddenly they'll want tattoos and piercings and they've never wanted them before. Or maybe they pick up fun things like drinking habits that get way, way out of control. Remember that being in a band or doing the video, unless you plan on just throwing random stuff out that chances are probably degrades over time, you still need to have a work ethic. You're still trying to create something and be somewhat of a professional, no matter how much fun it is when you get on stage or when you're performing or when you get to see the video or, people react to your art. There is a work ethic that has to follow that. And if you don't have that work ethic, that thing you're doing probably won't last very long. And even if it does, the quality will probably slowly degrade because you don't treat it the way that it probably should be treated. The next point is exceptionally hard for me to learn. It's taken a long time. People who have been in bands with me or done other things with me will definitely recognize this in me. You need to stop doubting yourself and just share. Set yourself a deadline. This will feed into the next point a little bit, but self-doubt is huge in most of us, especially when we're doing something new. We always want things to be better or perfect or like the thing we saw on YouTube or on TV or in a movie or in concert. You need to remember that those people worked very, very hard to get to that point, and they likely now have more people around them than you have around you. You need to just find your idea, find your creativity, and start doing it. Throw things at the wall. What I'm doing right now is exactly that. I didn't really have major plans for this video. I thought about doing all of the stereotypical things that musicians do on the internet, which is, here, this is how I play this thing. Well, no one's asked me how to play one of my songs. I might just start throwing that kind of stuff out there eventually just because I'm interested in it. But I decided right now I'm in a box. I'm going to do what affects me and what interests me. And if no one else watches this, I can go back and look at it and remind myself next time I'm sitting down being creative of this video and all of these points. The final point I want to talk about is perfection in art. This is a little bit of an opinion piece. There's moments for everything. AI art, AI music generation is all a normal thing now. It's becoming normalized. AI music is not anywhere near where AI art is at the moment, but eventually it'll get to a point where it creates things that you actually want to listen to that don't sound like nails on the chalkboard. But really what I'm getting at is being over perfect yourself. It's easy, especially for musicians, to time align things. It's easy for artists to take their painting, especially if it's digital art, and throw it in Adobe and start to mess with filters and layer things down and smooth them. There's a certain point where it stops representing what it was. And I'm not saying don't do that. I'm saying be careful about how much you do it. Uh, Musicians, especially, want to try and fix things a lot in post, at least in my experience. You know, let the engineers handle the fact that I couldn't play on time and let's retime align it. Or that drum sound didn't come out quite the way I want, so let's put samples on it. Um, that last part, most drummers will never ask for. That's usually the engineer's choice, and it usually causes a lot of trouble. But the point being, art is about as much living in the moment as it is trying to produce an idea that's coherent to everybody else. Uh, there are different ways that things turn. Sometimes something that looks ugly is beautiful to someone else. Something that sounds horrible hits a moment or strikes a chord with someone else. Um, but don't beat yourself up on the perfection. It does not need to be perfect. I'm sure if you listen to my albums, I'm sure I have a number of critics. Most of them aren't talking yet. Normally just hear good things, which is great, but that will change eventually. And people will pick things apart. I'm not going to concern myself with my perfection. What I concern myself with, especially when I write a song, is, does it feel right? Do I still have that moment? If I have to record this guitar 27 times, does it still feel the same way that I did it the first time? Usually the answer to that is no. If you have to record it 27 times, it's probably time to take a break and step away and ask yourself, does that song belong on this album at this time? It's all about feel. If you didn't have feel in it, it'd be pretty robotic, in which case you could just program everything and be done. So don't beat yourself up. Just get it done. And I'm saying that more to me than anyone else. Thanks for watching.